Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Fatal Attraction Part 10. Today we're talking about the tragic life of Travis Alexander. As the interrogation with Jodi Arias would continue, and when she would finally realize that the police were not buying her original story, that she was nowhere near the residence of Travis Alexander, she would begin changing her story. And the first story would be that she would in fact be at the residence of Travis Alexander. And around the time when Travis was taking a shower, two masked men would actually break into the home and begin attacking Travis. And when Jodi would try to rescue Travis, the masked men would push her aside and tell her that they were only there for Travis. They did not want to hurt or kill her. And frightened, she would begin running out of the house and jump into the white car that she had rented and would speed off, almost hitting two children in the process. But the police were not buying the story. They would continue with arresting her with the murder of Travis Alexander, considering the fact that they had multiple pieces of evidence connecting her to the crime, and that the evidence was irrefutable. While waiting for trial, Jodi would actually continue going on multiple news interviews, and by the time she was going on these news interviews, her story would change again. She would say that she was at the residence of Travis Alexander and that the home would be broken in by two masked men, or specifically two masked assassins, or if you really want to be specific, two professional ninjas would break into Travis Alexander's home and murder him on the 4th of June 2008. And she would leave the interview by making statements on multiple interviews and say the same thing, that no juror will convict her or could convict her because she knew she did not kill Travis. Travis knew she did not kill him, and even God knew that she did not kill Travis Alexander. She would later say, only two monsters killed Travis Alexander, I did not. And like a true narcissist in good fashion, she would change her story again a third time. And this time she would say that she had in fact killed Travis Alexander, but it was in self-defense. And this time she would say that she had arrived at Travis's home and quickly they would go to the bedroom and begin having sex. But she would say that Travis would become a little bit more violent on this encounter than she had been before, because he would take a rope and begin tying her up in the bed, and they would have violent sex. And after they were done having sex, he would take a knife and cut her free and place it in the sink. She would then say that when Travis was done, he would place the knife in the sink and begin taking a shower. And when he began taking a shower, Jodi would go and start taking photographs of him while he wasn't paying attention. And he would turn around and get angry with her. And when he had gotten angry with her, she would drop the camera. And after she had dropped the camera, Travis would look at her and say, "I'm going to kill you, you bitch." And she would claim that he would go and try to attack her, and she would pick up the knife and kill him in self-defense. But ironically, she could not say what happened during the time that she was defending herself, because she would claim that her mind went completely blank and would not remember anything until the moment that she had gotten in her rental car and was driving to Utah. Jodi would also say that the entire time that she was with Travis, he was a completely abusive person. And she would claim on trial that he had completely manipulated her to joining the Mormon faith, and had also manipulated her to moving closer to him so that he could use her as a sexual object. Now, the prosecution knew that Jodi had killed Travis, and the police knew that Jodi had killed Travis. And upon going to trial, Jodi had actually confirmed that she had in fact killed Travis. The only difference in the courtroom is Jody was claiming in self-defense, where the prosecution and the police were saying that this was completely premeditated. The prosecution would bring up the countless times that Jody would actually stalk Travis when they were together and after they had broken up. The prosecution would also tell the courtroom about the countless times that Jody was constantly not only hacking into Travis's multiple social media accounts and email accounts, but also his friend Sky Hughes. They would begin discussing and talk about how obsessive and possessive that Jody was of Travis, and would go and tell the courts about how she really lost it when Travis started dating other women, and would say that the moment that Jody had found out that Travis was taking his current girlfriend, Mimi Hall, to Cancun instead of her, she just completely lost it. The prosecution would finally remind the jury that Jody had made the statement on multiple news interviews that no juror would ever convict her. And the prosecution would make sure the jury knew that Jody was in fact that confident that she was not going to be found guilty. And then it was time for Jody to actually take the stand. And everyone kind of assumed what Jody was going to do the moment she took the stand, because like she did in the police room, she just played the victim card and just was going to play the victim card for about as long as she could. And once she was on the stand, she would almost give off this image that Travis was this very violent, abusive person. She would say that he was physically abusive, mentally abusive, and he also had a very sick infatuation with little boys. And she would even go as far to playing a recording of a phone call that she had with Travis himself. And Travis would make the statement that he liked having sex with her because when she was having sex, she moaned like a 12-year-old virgin, end quote. Jody would tell the courtroom that Travis did not have this holier-than-thou image that everyone had painted him out to have. And not only that, but of the fact that she would constantly take the abuse that Travis would give her the entire time they were together. And not only going over the abuse, but she would also, during this entire time, start naming down how many times they went on dates and how many times they had sex, which positions they were having when they would have sex on each particular date or time that they spent together. To which the prosecution asked a pretty good question. And they would ask Jody, so you can remember in detail which position you had sex with Travis on certain specific nights, how many times y'all had sex, and how many dates y'all had in the entire time that you dated him, but you still can't remember what went down the day that you murdered him. And to this defense, Jody would say that Travis was extremely abusive and would remind the court about the times that he had called her a skank, a whore, and a three-hole wonder. And to this, the prosecution would bring up all of Travis Alexander's girlfriends and would ask them specifically, has he ever called you any of these things? To which Travis's ex-girlfriends would say no. Anytime that he had spent time with them, that he treated them with the utmost respect. It's around this time that Jody started telling the courtrooms that her entire life, her parents had abused her horribly. And I just want to make a little side note. Around the time that this trial was going on, there would be another infamous trial going on in America. And we had previously talked about this person, the case of Casey Anthony. And when Casey Anthony would talk about the abuse that her father had given her growing up, it's speculated and theorized that Jodi Arias had saw this very interview and started talking about that her parents were extremely abusive. And it's around this time during the trial that both the defense and the prosecution had decided that they would start bringing in psychiatrists to test out Jodi Arias's current mental state.